It's Thursday, the 5th of September, 2024. Today is the 250th anniversary of the First Continental Congress. It was on this day in 1774 that 56 delegates met here at Independence Hall. Nope. Messed up. It's a, common misconception that they met here. This is where they met for the Second Continental Congress, as well as the Constitutional Convention, which took place much later, 1787. The First Continental Congress was actually held in Carpenter's Hall, which is that way, a little bit further east. So let's go to Carpenter's Hall, because if we're going to talk about the First Continental Congress, we need to be at the right place. So follow me to Carpenter's Hall.
Carpenter's Hall is only about 2 blocks away from Independence Hall. Just walk down Chestnut Street, and you will find it between 3rd and 4th Street. As you're walking towards Carpenter's Hall, just look to your right, and what appears to be an alleyway is your destination. The city of Philadelphia offered Carpenter's Hall as the venue for the Continental Congress, but this didn't sit very well with the Speaker of the Pennsylvania Assembly, Joseph Galloway. Galloway and his allies preferred that they have the convention at the Pennsylvania State House, which today we call Independence Hall. 2 future presidents of the United States were among the delegates that were discussing the proper venue for the Continental Congress, and those were George Washington and John Adams. The decision on where to have the Congress was not made until the morning of the 5th, and it was done here at City Tavern. Now, several of the delegates, especially those from New England and Virginia, really did not trust Joseph Galloway all that much. So when he recommended that they have the Congress at the Pennsylvania State House, then they decided maybe it won't be such a good idea, and Carpenter's Hall was chosen as the place to hold the Congress. So once that decision was made, they left City Tavern and marched down this very pathway towards Carpenter's Hall. So this is the destination, Carpenter's Hall. You had 56 delegates from 12 colonies. Georgia was the only one that did not send any delegates because they had their hands full with Tories and with Native American attacks. But as for the other delegates who did arrive, they all knew each other, even though they haven't met before, thanks to the committees of correspondence. It was a way for all the delegates for all the colonies to interact. It was an intercolonial network of communications. Now, the purpose of the First Continental Congress was not independence. That didn't come about until the Second Continental Congress. This Congress was here to discuss the severe penalties that Britain was unleashing on the people of Massachusetts Bay because of their role in the Boston Tea Party. These punitive measures were known as the Coercive Acts or the Intolerable Acts. Now, the other colonies thought, it's only going to be a matter of time before we too get hit with these types of punitive measures. So, this is why they all met here to discuss some kind of way to show a united front against Parliament that they can't treat the colonists in this fashion. Now, the first thing they needed to do was elect a president, and Peyton Randolph of Virginia was given the honors of being the president. Now, the job of secretary was Charles Thompson, and he was from Pennsylvania. Now, these delegates had their work cut out for them. Not only did they disagree on what the proper response was to the coercive acts, but they also weren't exactly sure how they were going to vote. Should each colony get 1 vote, or should it be determined by population? Now, these delegates had a lot of work cut out for them. Not only did they disagree on the proper response to the coercive acts, whether they should petition the king, whether they should have a boycott, but there was also the disagreement on how the voting should be. Now, the larger colonies, such as Virginia, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania, thought, you know what, we've got more people than, say, Delaware or New Hampshire, so we should have more votes. But the smaller colonies were like, no, that's not fair. Each colony gets 1 vote. Now, the arguing went back and forth. Finally, Patrick Henry of Virginia stood up and said, "Where are your landmarks, your boundaries of colonies? We are in a state of nature, sir. The distinctions between Virginians, Pennsylvanians, New Yorkers, and New Englanders are no more. I am not a Virginian, but an American." Now, there would be some other disagreements, such as the morning prayer, because you had Quakers and Episcopalians and Presbyterians and Congregationalists all disagreeing on what type of prayer they should have. But they eventually did work this out. Although there were disagreements those first few days, they were able to speak in one voice when they appealed to the king and when they made their demands to Parliament. So overall, the First Continental Congress was a huge success.